and welcome to another midday recipe with me. Today's a really special one because I get to introduce to you guys the world of fermentation, which is a place that I like to spend a lot of time. It's one of those things that you either get the bug for it or you don't, and I got the bug for it. So now I'm fermenting lots of different things, lots of different variations, and just seeing like what I can do with fermentation. So we're going to start with something that's really easy to ferment today. We're going to be doing sauerkraut. Now the deal is with these live recipes is that you guys can sit at home and you can watch these and you can ask me questions live on the show. So let me just get the live up on my computer here, and then I'll be able to read your questions. So do let me know, because I think this is a particular one where you will have questions about it. Let me just get it up here. We're the right way around today, which is always a good start. And yes, here you are. There I am, nattering away as usual. Colleen said good morning from New Jersey in America. Good morning. Thank you for joining us again, Colleen. I know it's early there. Yes, so we are going to start with a really easy ferment today, because I think that when we're first of all looking into the world of fermentation, it can seem really scary, because there's lots of blogs out there that tell you to do these things in such a specific way, and you have to use this type of strainer, and you have to use this type of spoon, and you can't put your hands in it, and and you've got to make sure it's at exactly the right temperature. It's a lot to take in. And when I was thinking about this, what I realised is that the scariest thing about fermentation is that it is more of a science. So we say that baking is a science, but compared to fermenting, like fermenting is, much more scientific than baking, I would say, because with baking you've still got like a bit of room for error. With fermentation, there are some key things that you really have to get right in order to have success with it. So the actual recipes, the actual ingredients themselves, it isn't necessarily anything too complicated, and I will be taking you through different types of ferments today, just kind of going briefly into them, but we will be mainly focusing on sauerkraut. So Karen, thank you for joining me again. Pascal, hello. Julie, thank you for joining us. It's lovely when you guys come back and that we're creating this really lovely community and getting to know you guys and seeing all the amazing photos that you're sharing of the recipes of ours that you've made at home. It's amazing. We even had somebody share a picture of a beautiful chocolate fudge cake that they had made from my recipe, and they hadn't started eating it. It was whole. I know. Yes. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so Sarah, thank you for joining us. Good morning. Karen, what a lovely way to spell your name. Good morning from Montclair, New Jersey. Oh, we've got two New Jerseyites. How do I say that? In the house today. Maria, hello. Colleen, she's just spotted the rainbow, but I'm not going to say anything yet. You're already there. You beat me to it. I didn't even have a chance to say that, as always, there is a rainbow in my kitchen, so you have to help me find it. It looks like Colleen's already beat to it. But there you go. We can still have a go. Colleen, don't say anything yet. It's a good idea. Shh. We'll see if anybody else guesses. Deborah says good morning. Licia says good morning. Please do let me know as well where you were saying good morning from, because of course now it's the afternoon for me. So maybe you're not in the UK, but it's always great to know where you guys are from. Justine, thank you for joining me. Okay. So, just to talk to you guys a bit about our different ferments. So, as I said, I really got into fermenting quite a lot, and once you get a hang on certain aspects of it, it becomes much easier, and I'll tell you what those are. But first of all, I will introduce you to my my family of ferments. I told you I was a food geek, okay? So I take this stuff very seriously. These are the three wise men, as I call them. So people who grew up in the UK might know what I mean by the three wise men. Oh, Trisha says hello from Liverpool. Hello. Anna, thank you for joining us. Miranda, afternoon from sunny South Africa. Oh, lovely, South Africa. And Licia, Brooklyn. She's from Brooklyn. What a lovely, lovely part of the world. Okay, so these are my three wise men. As some of you from different countries, I'll have to give you a background story as to why they're called the three wise men. So in the UK, when kids do nativity plays, when you're like tiny, three people are always like the three wise men, and you put a tea towel on your head and then a band around it, and you end up looking like this. So these are my three wise men. George says good morning from Ottawa, Canada. Oh wow, lovely. Yes, so these are my three wise men. So in here we have kefir. I'm going to bring this up to the camera so you guys can see more closely. So this is wise man number 1, and this is kefir, water kefir. So you can see the grains that are along the bottom there, and I feed it with sugar water. And so this, the sugar is what the culture needs to eat and to multiply, and it will just actually multiply itself. So the more you make kefir, the more grains you will have, and then those grains you can actually pass on to somebody else, and then they can start making their own kefir. And literally, this just has water and sugar in it. So when I use water for this, I heat it in a pan on the hob, and then I let it cool, and then I pop it into it. You can use spring water as well. So kefir is very interesting because not only will it accept just like regular cane sugar, but it will also accept things like molasses and coconut sugar. So that's kefir. Kefir can get quite bubbly as well, and I have been soaking it with some raspberries and making raspberry kefir, which is very, very lovely, especially with a gin in it. So that is our kefir, and then in here we actually have, they're the same thing. They are the same thing. So these are our kombuchas. So if you guys can tell me if you have any experience with these things, or if it's something that you wanted to try out and you were a bit too scared of it, which I can understand because it is a bit of it's really different to anything else I've done in cooking. So give you a close up of this kombucha, and you'll see the SCOBY that's in there, which is this gelatinous culture. And we have this other one here as well. And so I've really been trying to cultivate these SCOBYs. I'll come around the other side and talk to you a bit more about kombucha. So kombucha, it has this culture in it, which is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So it's actually two cultures together, and so they need two different types of food. So one, it needs tea. It needs to be caffeinated tea, so either black tea or green tea. You can also use something like oolong, which is very lovely, pua, and it also needs sugar, but the sugar needs to be cane sugar, so it can't accept things like molasses or coconut sugar or rapadura or anything like that. And so this gets to be quite vinegary. And I really, really keep it going until it gets quite sour, because that's the way that I like it. Deborah said, very interested in today's lesson as I made sauerkraut recently and it went very mouldy. Oh no, that's not good. Okay, so in another session we can talk about our kombuchas and kefirs. I just wanted to introduce those to you today. They are very, very lovely, and I think particularly at this time of year it would be great to get you guys on that fermented drinks journey, because it's a great substitute for a cold fizzy drink basically in the summer. So I actually make enough so that I can put it into small bottles and put it into my fridge. Sometimes I flavour it, sometimes I don't, and then I have that as my go-to when the weather gets really hot, which occasionally it does here. And also I'm going to show you guys at another stage how to make them into ice lollies, which is just such an amazing thing to do. With fruit in, we can make it look really pretty, excellent, really, really easy. Hope that you would love to learn both about kombucha and water kefir. So yes, we will definitely do that again. But today we're going to look at sauerkraut. So this is the sauerkraut that I made the other day. It's well, actually, it's just yesterday. Just yesterday, I made this in preparation of today's class. So Michael said, "Hello from Southeast Missouri." That sounds so nice. So nice. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Ozark recently, which I think that's Missouri, isn't it? Isn't it? I'm sure it's not all like that. Hope said, "Good morning from northeastern Maine in the US." I swear, one day we have to do this 50 states thing. We'll try it. We will try it. We'll set a date, and then we will try to get at least one representative from each US state in the show. Does that sound good to me? To you? Sounds good to me, because I decided on it. Does it sound good to you? We'll give it a go one day. Okay, so this is the sauerkraut that I made yesterday using red cabbage. And you know, I wanted to show you guys something else to do with the red cabbage anyway, because at the start of lockdown I had said to you guys, this is a really, really good vegetable for you to choose. So when you're considering what's going to keep, what's going to last the longest, you know, because if it's going to be maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks until you can go and buy fresh fruit and veg again, you really want stuff that's going to last a long time. So we've got Mary from Richmond, Virginia in. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Okay, yes, so I said to you guys that this was a really, really good idea for something that's going to keep for a long time. You keep it in the fridge and it will last a very, very, very long time, and also it goes a long way. So when you're using it in like a stir fry or something like that, or salad, you know, it's really, really lovely in salad, a little bit goes a long way. So that's, you know, a really sensible thing to buy at the moment. But now, you know, fruit and veg might be coming to the shops a lot quicker than it was before. So I had this left over and wanted to use it up. So I decided to make the sauerkraut with it. So with sauerkraut, of course we know that you mainly use cabbage. That's usually what sauerkraut is. It is fermented cabbage. So cabbage works really, really well because the cell walls break down of the actual cabbage, and then it can just kind of like break down, and you will be able to see it as I'm massaging it with the salt, that it will be breaking down fairly, fairly quickly. But you don't just have to use cabbage. So in this jar here, we have this wonderful vegetable. Jim, thank you for joining us. And Rich, good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, so this lovely vegetable here is one of my faves. This is, drum roll, building that up a bit. It's kohlrabi. I don't know if you guys have come across this wherever you live, but we're getting this more and more in the shops in the UK. So this krauts really, really well. And so what actually happens in the process of krauting is that it's to do with the lactic acid bacteria. So that will combine with the salt and you'll get this fermenting action, and that will mean that not only will the walls of the vegetable skin start to break down, but you will also get this fermenting process that will go on, which will mean that it kind of like gets a bit of a kind of like musky taste. You know, and you'll be able to smell that. Like the longer it goes on, the longer the ferment goes on, you'll be able to smell it, and you will you'll notice a difference in the smell of it, which will mean that there'll be a difference in the taste of it. So Abigail said, hello. Bunny Abigail. Thank you for joining us again. I love you and your bunnies. Mel, thank you for joining us. So yes, in here we have the kohlrabi. We also have it with caraway seed, which is a really, really lovely addition for your sauerkraut, either with kohlrabi or with the cabbage. Other combinations as well, putting bits of apple in it is very, very lovely, and also juniper berries. Juniper berries is really, really lovely. Just be careful how much you actually mix into it, because juniper can be quite strong tasting. You don't really need much in there, because you've got to remember that because this is a liquid and we've got those other flavours in it, then they're going to be mixing in, and you know, it's going to become like stronger over time. So yeah, with the smell of this, there's still a sweetness, but there is a muskiness to it. Whereas this is mainly just cabbage at the moment. So it becomes much more of a complex smell and therefore a complex flavour. Okay, so I just wanted to show these to you guys as well, because they have a relation to sauerkraut. Cleo, hello. Thank you for joining us. This is my kimchi that I was making yesterday. I was filming for one of the online courses that we'll be releasing soon. So as you know, you guys will probably have heard of kimchi. You know, it's got a lot of airtime recently because it is so flavoursome that you can just have a bit of kimchi on some rice and it is divine. Absolutely divine. So kimchi is very, very closely related to sauerkraut, again using cabbage and using a lactic acid bacteria, that same process that is going to be happening with sauerkraut. Just with kimchi, you know, there are other flavours going on as well, but again you will get that kind of like musky taste, and more complex flavours going on, and that's what we're looking for. That's one of the reasons why it's so great, and I guess kind of like in taste terms, that's the main reason why it's so great. But of course there are huge nutritional benefits to it as well. Mary said kimchi. Yes, exactly, kimchi. Are you a kimchi maker? Jenny, ginger is also nice in with it too. Is that with your kraut? I think maybe you mean with your kraut. And Ingrid, thank you for joining me. Right, okay, so yeah, that's our kimchi. As I said, very, very closely related to it. And what about these? So these are shiitake mushrooms that I mixed with some salt. And then I put them into a sous vide bag and took all the air out of them. And so this will start to ferment them. It's the same process as with the sauerkraut. It will start to break down the walls. Water will come from it, and it's just this lovely mushroom liquid that we get from this that we can then use as a base for soup or a stock or a stew or something like that. And I have also made it into a mushroom gel, which sounds a little bit weird, I know, but I was doing a 3-course meal for Valentine's meal, not for us, for a client, and I made a lovely mushroom meal with, I think, maybe 7 different types of mushroom in it, and a mushroom gel just dotted around the outside, and it was so lovely, because basically, like, so much of that flavour, so much of that essence of the shiitake will go into the water, but it's great to be able to capture that on the plate. So rather than it rolling around, you know, you're really able to scoop some of that up. And so by making a gel, I was able to do that, which is really lovely. Love that a lot. Ankita said, hey, what else can we... Oh, no. I missed that question. Let me just see if I can go up. Right, there we go. Okay. What else can we use the red cabbage for, apart from slaw? Okay, so you can also use red cabbage roasted. So if you just cut it into chunks and then roast it, and you know, there's lots of different flavours that it can take. So you know, I like it with like a miso tamari sauce on top. That's very nice. So yeah, you could do something like that. Sarah said, do you recommend having this fermented food raw or mixed with hot cooked food? You can have it either way. You can have it either way. So there are so many fermented foods around the world. Like wherever you are, there will be fermented foods that are traditionally made in your country. In the UK, it's bread and beer. They're ours. But you'll probably have some too. But with something like this, you can have it either hot or cold. And in the countries where they do have sauerkraut or something very similar, sometimes it is eaten cold on the side of a meal. Or there are also some soups that it can be incorporated into. There is a Polish soup, which is like I think it's called like a farmer's soup, that it's just like lots of like different bits and pieces that you've got around the kitchen, and then you throw in a load of this, and also some fresh cabbage as well. So you can have it in you know, either way. Michael said, I make kimchi a lot, turns out great. Awesome. Yeah, let us know if there's anything different that you add, if you've got like your own spin on it. There's lots of different ways of making kimchi. You can add things like pear to it as well if you want it sweeter. And you know, I think kimchi is definitely one of those recipes where you start with a base recipe and then you make it your own. Because some people will want more garlic, some people want more ginger, some people will want more or less chili, etc. Jenny said, hi, sorry, yes, with the kraut, fresh ginger. Okay, great. That sounds lovely, really lovely. We're big ginger fans in this house. So we'll just pop these to one side. So remember, this is our kohlrabi kraut. So just so you know, you don't have to use cabbage. Kohlrabi works really well. In fact, most of the brassica family works really well. So things like cauliflower leaves, kale works really well. There's lots of different variations that you can use depending on what you've got to hand. So don't ever be afraid of experimenting with these things. There will be some recipes that you will see online that say that in order to make a kraut, you always need to mix it with cabbage. You don't. And I know that because I've experimented with it and it's gone really well. So let me just take a sip. Oh, Maria said pickles. What was that in reference to? What was that? Or were you calling me pickles? Because that would be cute. That would be really cute. In fact, my niece, she used to be called Amy Pickle when she was little by my sister, which is adorable. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go on to making our kraut. So I'm going to be using, Abigail says that she loves pickles so much. Me too. I really do like them. There is something so addictive about them though. Really addictive. Okay, so we are going to be using this contraption, which I know scares people a lot. And I know that because I've taught many classes with it, and I tell students, you know, use the mandolin if you want to. And if I give them the option, they just don't. They would rather use a knife. The problem is that, you know, if you try to use a knife with this, it can be quite difficult to get it cut finely enough. And also it can be almost impossible to get the cuts even. It's going to be really difficult to do that. So we're going to use the mandolin today, which gives me a good opportunity to talk to you about mandolins and how to use them safely. So on the back here we have this twisty thing here, and this will dictate how thick or how fine the cut is. So whenever I'm not using this, I always make sure that this goes in all the way, because it means that no one can accidentally slice their finger. So as soon as you stop using it, just make sure that that is in all of the way, and then the blade is completely guarded, basically. So definitely do that, you know, before you're going to wash it up. And I just do it as a matter of course. It just becomes like second nature to me to do that. So yeah, make sure that you do that. And the other thing as well is that when you're using a mandolin, don't be afraid to let the ends of the vegetable go, because what we find is that we're so used to like wanting to use every tiny bit of the food, which is great. It's really, really great that you don't want to waste food. But when it comes to, you know, just having like a tiny bit at the end, people are still trying to pass it through the mandolin and your fingers are getting far too close. So just don't discard those bits. Put them to one side and then use them in something else like a stew or a soup or something like that. You will find a way to use it. But we like our fingers intact. Please, 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 please. Abigail said, what do you think of kombucha? I'm personally obsessed with it. Well, you must have come late because I did show everybody my 3 wise men. I should actually call them 3 wise women instead over here. We've got 2 kombuchas on the go and a water kefir. So we will be doing a class on those another time. I want to wait until the weather's a bit nicer because I'd like to show you guys how to make kombucha and kefir iced lollies, which are amazing, and it's a really, really great way to get kids to have something like that as well without them realising they're having something healthy. Sarah said, can you just exemplify the best way to cut it with a knife? I don't have one of those, only those pyramid shredders. Okay. And Colleen said, I have a food guard holder with my mandolin. Yes, they're a really, really good thing to have. It's usually like a kind of like dome thing, and then you put that onto your veg, and then, you know, that makes sure that your fingers don't get hurt. Marie, is it still vegan if you accidentally add a bit of human blood? If it's your own, yes. If it's somebody else's, that's a subject for another conversation. Anyway, yes. So let's demonstrate doing this with a knife. Sorry, I'm going to cut this down so that it's easier to shred, but I'm going to keep the stem in place. Okay, so if I was doing this with a knife, I just want to be really, really slow, and I'm using the edge of my knuckle as a guide. And I don't mind if I'm going to go slow, because I would rather go slow and it be even than try to be Jamie Oliver and do it really quickly and end up with bits that just aren't the same size at all. So, you know, I mean, it's fairly straightforward doing it with a knife. You just need to be really, really, really careful, and I would suggest, you know, doing it quite slowly just so that you can get it as fine as possible. Julie said, I use a spiralizer to get fine shreds. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. So yeah, if you guys have a spiralizer, that's another way to use it. Okay, so we've got our big bowl here, and let's see how this is going to come out now. Yeah, that's okay. So now is a really, really great time for you guys to ask me questions, because there are going to be quite a few moments today where this gets a little bit tedious, you know, you're watching me because, you know, this is the process. But if you guys have any questions about all of the different ferments that we've already talked about today, or any other ferments, then please do say now. Now is a really, really good time to ask some questions. Let me just make sure I can get all your questions up. Yes, I can. Just to say as well, yesterday we had Nikki doing her first show for us. So Nikki is a current student of mine. Unfortunately, her course was interrupted by you know what. So she's still got 2 classes left with us. Nikki's show was really special yesterday because Nikki is qualified in nutrition. So she's actually got a nutrition degree. And she's worked for food companies for many years as well. So she was able to answer lots of your questions about nutrition. So she will be with us again next Friday. So, you know, if you guys have some questions that you want answered about vegan nutrition, then come along to the show on Friday. Okay, so Abigail said, also don't look away. I did once and accidentally sliced my thumb. Abigail, that's really, really hard when I'm trying to look at you guys over there. I didn't think that one through. Okay, so just to say as well, guys, with my mandolin is actually quite a slim mandolin. So I do have to cut this down because if I try to use the whole thing on it, it would just be like too big and bulky. This is from a place called Nisbets, which is a really great catering supplier in the UK. So you don't need to be a restaurant or a cafe or anything like that to buy from them. They will sell to just regular customers as well. See what I need a drink today? I know, I've been talking about food too much. So Julie said, where do you get the SCOBY or grains? Okay, so you can get them from eBay. eBay is a wonderful place to get the most randomest of things. So recently we've been buying seeds for the garden, and you can get them really cheaply on eBay. So vegetable seeds and fruit seeds and herb seeds as well, and you can get much more kind of like unusual things than you can from regular suppliers. But you can also get things like tempeh starter, SCOBYs, kefir grains, lots of different things for ferments. And there's a new website that I found this morning actually that I'll put a link to it on our community hub in our group, and let you know, because I actually bought a starter from them, a sourdough starter, a gluten-free one. And they look like a really great company, so I'm very interested to see how it goes with them. Okay, as I said, this show does get a little bit monotonous after a while. Colleen said, yes, Nikki was great. I love the basic pasta sauce recipe. I'm going to play around and incorporate different herbs and veg. Yeah, so Nikki, she shared with us a high protein pasta dish. Really simple, but very nutritious and ready literally in minutes, which is awesome. That's a recipe that you can really adapt to what you've got at home, which is great for us at the moment. Any way that we can make a recipe versatile for you guys, we're trying our best to make versatile recipes as much as possible, because the less you guys go shopping, the less you guys have to leave the house, the better. What do you think of sprouting? I love sprouting. I love sprouting. I think sprouting is one of those real underused things in the vegan world, because it has so much potential. There's so much healthy protein that are in sprouts, and they're really easy to make. Really fun for kids as well. I mean, I always get really excited when my seeds sprout. Even though I know every time it's going to happen, I still get really excited about it. So we will do that one day as well, definitely. Mary said, there is a company here called Farmhouse Ferments. So many interesting varieties, za'atar, carrots, curry, mix of veg. So I want to know how to make myself. Oh, great. And so Mary, maybe you could, I think you're in America, aren't you? So if you could put a link to that in the comments, that would be great, or you can just share it in the community hub later on if you want to. But it would be great to get some resources for you guys, in America, but also, I can share the link to the place that I use in the UK. Johnny, thank you for joining us. Irene, thank you for joining us too. And Laura, thank you. Right, okay, so we're nearly at the end of this. Trying not to injure myself on Facebook Live, because don't want that. Okay, there we go. And so as soon as I have finished with my mandolin, I'm going to twist this so that when I wash it up, I'm not going to get hurt. Johnny said sauerkraut is the best. I bought cabbage this morning. Going to make it later. Good. And Lara has just joined us. So Lara, I think you got a blog, haven't you? I would really like it if you can put a link to that in your comments, because I know that you're doing really fantastic stuff on there. So that would really help us out. Okay, so Now, to work out how much salt goes in here, we need to weigh it. So I weighed this before, and I know that it's around like 500 grams, so we need to do 2% of that. Yeah, you've got to get your math heads on, or you can just use a calculator on your phone, whichever. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that onto here and bring it back to 0. There we go. Okay, and I have my salt here. So if it was 500 grams, how much salt am I going to put in it? There's a question for you. Come on, guys, I know you can do it. Abigail said, I wish I could grow stuff, but I live in a studio apartment and have a cat that once killed my mum's avocado plant. Oh, it's that age-old battle between avocados and cats, you see. There you go. So with something else, you'll be fine. But cats and avocado? No. Abigail said, yeah, I've got that. Lara said, thanks, Dave. I share my tips on sustainable living on Facebook page. There we go. That's great. Thank you. We'll definitely find that later on, and we'll put a link to it in our community hub as well, because I think that would be of great interest to you guys. Okay, so 500 grams. Nobody's answering me what 2% of 500 grams is, so I'm going to have to do it myself. Okay, so 1% is 5 grams, so 2% is 10 grams. There we go. So we're going to add 10 grams of salt into here. Right, there we go. And now I will massage this in. So you do need to massage it in for a while. It's good to have some music on, or something that's going to entertain you. You can watch TV while you're doing it, whatever it is, or it's something nice to do, with other people as well, so you can chat while you're doing this. So Maria said, I make pasta or cauliflower cheese by using soya bechamel, adding to nutritional yeast at the end. That sounds lovely, really, really lovely. Liz said, do you wash the cabbage first? That's a really, really good question. So I try to buy organic wherever possible. So that means that I don't have to worry about washing pesticides off, but of course, you still have to worry about washing dirt off. Thing is with cabbage, or with this type of cabbage, the very kind of like closed-leafed cabbage, is that it's almost impossible for there to be any dirt on the inside. It's very, very difficult for any dirt to get in there. So I would just take off those rough outer leaves, which kind of would come off anyway. So I would just do that, basically. But you might be using a different cabbage. You might be using something like a Savoy or a pointed sweetheart cabbage. You might be using that, which is, much looser. So there's more opportunity for dirt and bugs and whatever to get in between those leaves. So I would say if it's a looser leaf cabbage, then wash it first. But with this type of cabbage, you don't have to. And of course, if you use like kohlrabi, that's a completely different thing, because you're not even having to worry about stuff getting between the leaves at all. Dougie, thank you for joining us. So I'm massaging this, and it's no longer boring, it's really meditative. I really like it. We've spoken before on the show about how cooking can be a really lovely period of meditation. There's a lovely quote by Michael Pollan. If you haven't come across Michael Pollan before, then I really suggest that you look him up after the show. Really, really, really interesting guy. He's a food writer. He's written a lot about food and the food system as well. And he writes wonderfully. And he says that, when it comes to food and meditation, you just need to stir the pot. You just need to, stop thinking about everything else. Just leave it at the kitchen door and just stir the pot. So Lara said, a few weeks before lockdown, I did a big batch of fermenting and pickling, which I'm enjoying now. Kimchi, sauerkraut, kebab chilies. What kebab chilies? Piccalilli, nice. Ashtar, pickled cucumber with star anise and turmeric, and pickled carrots. Such nice accompaniments to lunches and dinners. Oh, wow. If you can, I would love you to share pictures of those in our group, because that's the type of thing that really can inspire other people to give it a go. I think that it's very, very easy to look at the fermenting world and just think that it looks like so alien, so different to what we're used to, that we don't even want to go there. So, you know, seeing other people's pickles and, you know, hearing about their experiences, and just seeing how easy it is, can really kind of like open the door for a lot of people. Abigail said, as a kid, I used to eat cabbage raw sometimes. I'm such a bunny. You are. Okay, so we're getting to a good point with this. There's lots of liquid coming out. And honestly, like, you know, over the next few days of fermenting, more liquid will come out as the cell walls are broken down even more. And I have to admit that when I'm making sauerkraut, I actually prefer to do it with red cabbage rather than white. And the reason why is just because I think, you know, for me, a plate, if it's brighter, it looks more appealing, you know, and we all eat with our eyes. It's not just about Instagram. But, you know, a bright plate of food always, you know, it makes me smile. So I would rather use the red cabbage rather than the white. Okay, so we could carry on doing that for a bit longer if we wanted to, but we don't really have to. As I said, it will break down over the next few days of fermenting. So I've got my lovely big kilner jar there, and we'll just pop it in. There we go. So you can actually get a canning funnel that can sit on the top of these, just to kind of like make it easier to put all this in, but it's not really necessary. Okay. So we do want to use all of the juice that is in the bottom of this bowl, this bright violet juice. Right, there we go. And, oh my gosh, my hands kind of look blue now. It's a nice shade of purple. Abigail says, cooking makes me smile. It feels really good to do. That's really nice. Me too as well. Cooking is definitely like my happy place. You know, I can just like cook for hours on end, and you know, I'm really I just absolutely love it. Sarah said, can we use any jars, and do we need to sterilise? Okay, that's a really good question. There is so much information out there, so many different guides that tell you to, you know, sterilise things, and, you know, don't use any implements that haven't been sterilised, and all of this sort of stuff. And I am much more of a kind of gung-ho chef. So I try these things out, and I just think, do you know what, we've been fermenting things for like centuries, and you cannot tell me that over all of that time, every single person sterilised everything. They just didn't. They didn't, you know. Sterilising, you know, people have been doing it in the Middle Ages when things were not that sanitary. So, you know, I don't boil my jars beforehand or anything like that. I mean, they've been in my cupboard, you know, they've been in a clean area. They haven't been in a sterile environment. We've got cats, but yeah, my ferments still always work out. And that's another, actually that brings up something else as well, is that, you know, when it comes to my kombucha, I handle it with my hands. There are some guides online that say, you know, definitely don't do that, but I've done it, and, you know, 6 years later I'm still making kombucha and it's absolutely fine. Okay, so you'll see that with this, I was tampering it, pushing it down, just finding something that has like a good like flat bottom like that. This is really useful. Not very useful as a masher. IKEA didn't do very well with the masher bit, but with that, brilliant. So I'm just pushing it down, trying to get that under the liquid as much as possible, and I'll continue to do that over the next like few days. I'll pop the lid on, but just loosely, mainly just so that, you know, something doesn't fall into it. Now, just to say a few words on how to keep it from now on. So you can leave your sauerkraut to ferment anywhere from like 2 days to 10 days. It really depends on the temperature. And right, let me just move this out of the way. Temperature is the biggest factor when it comes to fermenting. It is always a thing that either means that it's going to be a success or a failure. And ferments, they really want steady temperature. That is the ideal for them. But in the UK, our weather is notoriously changeable. So with the weather here, there is only one thing that they can ever predict that it will be, and that is changeable. We don't know what's going to happen from 1 minute to the next. Honestly, it's a bit crazy. But when it comes to ferments like the temperature to be stable. And so one way to get around that is to find a warm place in your house. Some people have airing cupboards, you know, it might be a cupboard where the boiler is, and therefore the temperature will be at the same throughout. And with sauerkraut, it needs to be between 18 to 24 degrees Celsius, which is 65 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So, you know, when I first started fermenting, I would try just putting stuff out on the side, and it just wouldn't do anything. Even in spring, even some days in summer, you know, it isn't that warm here. And there can be quite a few guides online about fermenting, and then you look at where someone lives, and it's usually like California. You know, the weather here ain't like California. It just isn't. So my workaround for that is to use one of these things. So this is a polystyrene box. I actually was given this by somebody who has a pet food shop, because they would transport things. This is usually used for transporting chilled goods. You can buy these online, but the only places that I could find to buy them, you had to buy like 50 or something like that. So you can go and beg, borrow, don't steal them though, from various shops. And yeah, and you know, I mean, they're cheap as chips. So hopefully, you know, people might be okay with, you know, you just offer them a bit of money, and usually people will say, no, it's fine, don't worry about it, because it costs them like 10p. And there was something else that I got. Oh yeah, I got sent some products. So there were some products that I bought online, and I actually got them sent in one of these boxes, which was brilliant. It was brilliant. I was actually more excited about the box that it came in than the actual products. So because this is polystyrene, it will keep the temperature consistent. Trisha said, can you leave it in a heated, propagated for seeds? Yes, I think you can. Can you wrap it in foil, bubble wrap, and put it on a boiling cupboard? Yes. I think with all of these things, you need to try it and see and monitor it. So in this box, I have a heat pad. So this is a heat pad that is used for reptiles. So if you go online and just have a look for a heat pad for reptiles, I think this was like 15 quid, something like that. So it just plugs into the wall, and it has this as well, so I can turn the heat up and down, so I can actually change the temperature, which is very, very useful if you're going to be doing different ferments, because some ferments like sauerkraut will be okay like 18 to 24, but with other ones you might want to go a bit higher. And in here I also have a thermometer, so this is just something that came free with a fermenting kit. But I decided, you know, that I could just like keep it in my box, and then I can monitor the temperature of it. And so this box I also use for making tempeh. Tempeh, that's also something we can make together. So tempeh is hugely sensitive to differences in temperature, so it really needs to be consistent. So this is great for making tempeh, and I will put my other ferments in here as well. If it gets really cold in the UK, then I also put my kombucha and my kefir in there as well. If it is on the hot side and your sauerkraut is smelling like it is actually fermenting and fermenting quicker than you thought it would, that's okay. You just need to ferment it for less time. So this one, I actually just fermented it for 2 days and then it was done. And I actually did that in my fermenting chamber, which is the grandiose title that I give to the polystyrene box. So let's just see if we've got any questions. Would it work if you live in a hot place, usually between 28 to 34 degrees here? You're lucky, aren't you? Julie, I'm going to come and live where you live. Yes, it would. It might be a bit too on the warm side. So I would say, 28 degrees Celsius is, higher than the sauerkraut would like it. So if you can find like a cooler spot, the only thing is that you have to think, is it going to be consistently that temperature? Because really consistent is where it's at for ferments. Jenny said, hi, so a picnic cool box would work, obviously without the ice packs in. Yes, absolutely. Picnic cool box is a great thing for it. Do you try it daily? Yes, yeah, I do. With a lot of my ferments, I do. Just to kind of like see how these things are progressing and to know when to stop them. Danielle said, how do you stop the fermenting process once it's done? Really great question. You put it in the fridge. So whenever you want anything to stop fermenting, whether it is tempeh or our kraut or our kombucha, then we put it into the fridge and that will stop the fermenting process. So Julie says she lives in Darwin, Australia. Oh, I'm jealous. Martha said, where do you get your active ingredients for kefir and kombucha? So I will be sharing a link to a new website that I found this morning that I'm going to try out, and we'll I'll actually put a link to your comment, but I'll have to do it after the show because I can't remember it off the top of my head. I had the worst memory ever. But I have in the past got most of them from eBay. eBay is amazing because you will also get them quite cheaply as well. Danielle said, so the vinegary taste in sauerkraut only comes from the fermenting. Yes. So basically, the fermenting, the reaction of these these two ingredients together creates this sour flavour. Martha said, thank you. Deborah said, did you leave the lid loose? You don't need to burp it to release the gases. No, I just put it on just very, very loose, just so that nothing falls in it. You can just put a cloth like this over it as well, like a loose weave cloth. So you can do it that way. Some people do actually put it on completely and then burp it every now and again, but I don't. So any more questions before we go? Thank you for joining me for that, because that one was more like a class. This one was more like we were back at school, right? Which is what I love. I really, really miss teaching. So, Erin said, after 2 weeks of bubbly fermentation, my homemade sauerkraut was surprisingly sweet and fresh while still being acidic. It was milder than store-bought. Is that normal? Did I go wrong? Okay, so it can... So basically, with the different flavour notes, it can still have that sweet and freshness that we get from any vegetables because they've got natural sugars in them, but it can have different other notes as well at the same time. It wouldn't just be completely acidic or completely kind of musky. It's usually a combination of them, which is nice. I mean, that's one reason why it's so appealing, because it has all those different layers. So it's difficult to know whether you went wrong. I would say, try it again. Maybe 2 weeks was too much. And it was milder than store-bought. So do you mean less acidic? It might. Okay. Did I go wrong? It might be that you fermented it for too long, and if it was bubbly, maybe it did over ferment. So that is one thing to look out for. It depends what temperature it's at. If you're in a colder place, then 2 weeks is fine. But if it's kind of springtime like it is here, then 2 weeks might be too much. A few people said thank you, no worries. this is my job. Does the liquid have to cover the cabbage at all times? Yes, it does. And so with this one, I'll just tamper it down. But with this one, I actually put the outer cabbage leaves that I didn't want to use in the kimchi in here, and I really shoved them in, and then I pop the lid on, and that just means that all of this is really submerged, and that's what I want. So Danielle said, thank you, very, very useful. No worries. Deborah, great lesson, thank you. We'll try with my remaining cabbage. Good. Kevin said, hi from Canada, I just tuned in, reply available. I don't know what you mean by that. I'll reply to you if you ask me something. George said, thank you. Danielle, how long can it last in the fridge? Months. So, right, one thing that we do have to remember is that with this age-old process of fermentation, the whole idea of it was to use vegetables when they were in season, i.e. the only time that we used to get them, and then treat them in a way to preserve them. So it would be preserved over the winter months when we didn't get, so many vegetables, and we could eat it, so it will last a really, really, really long time. But I do urge you to try and make your own rather than getting the store-bought. I know that there's loads and loads and loads of store-bought at the moment in Whole Foods and Planet Organic and all of these fancy health food shops, but they'll charge, I was going to say they'll charge like £5 for that, but no, they've charged £5 for a bottle like that size, which is ridiculous because it probably costs pennies to make. Erina said it was milder as it was it was less acidic. It was my first ever sauerkraut fermented in a warm 18 to 20. Okay, no mold or yeast. No mold or yeast. That's great. That's a great sign. I would see if you can find a warmer place to put it, and see how you get on with that, and have like a shorter time for it. Okay, thank you for joining me. That was an intense one. That was an intense one. We will do another fermenting class again soon. Kevin said, sorry, I meant replay. I missed how it's made. And thank you for the compliment. That's very, very sweet of you. Okay, so all of our live recipes are saved both on the page and also in our community hub, which is our Facebook group. We are also working on putting them onto our website because trying to find them on Facebook is bloody annoying. It's bloody annoying. So at least with them being on our website, it means that you can browse them. So we will be doing that over the next couple of weeks, so bear with us. Mary said tempeh also. Yes, I love tempeh. Absolutely love it. Marie said she enjoyed it. Kevin said thank you. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your company. As I said, we're going to be here every day at midday for as long as you need us. So join us for these free and informative vegan recipes. Have a nice day.